Hey folks, in this episode we recover from some multiple disasters, I guess you could call them. We have a air compressor that goes bad, the element in the oven goes bad, so I have to replace that or find that so I can continue to powder coat. And then let me see, we have couple mess ups on the water pump that I still have to get back together. But anyway, stick around and see how things go or don't go. First thing I got to do to start putting the water pump back together is drive this shaft with the bearings into it. And so I put some 2x4s under it, hoping to preserve the powder coating that I did. And let me see if I can set you guys up somewhere so you can watch this debacle. There we go. And here we go. Make contact. Seems to be going okay. There's some type of ring or something up at the front. Let me see if I can feel it. It should stop it. There, I'm getting resistance. Let's bring it out and see what it looks like. Okay, you can see it's down there. See what the front looks like. Yep, front looks like it's seated right there. So the next step was to put that clamp or clip back in there. Our fancy, really nice set of channel lock unit was too thick to get in there, so I had this little set here. So I went and got that. Was able to snap it back in place. And so now the next thing we have to do is put that back on. Now, the instructions for that say that from the top of this to the top of that needs to be 425 inches. And it says you must install the seal with a tool and push the top of the seal at the same time as the shell lip. So, I'm going to have to work something out on that. Okay, here's what I came up with. Got an 1.25" socket, deep well socket. I cut a piece of copper pipe that I had, which will go over the shaft, fit inside there, and it's actually 0.4, I measured it as 0.425 inches below the top of here. Gotta see that. Below the top of there. So I'm going to take it over, put it in the press, and we'll press it in and see what happens. Alright, you can see we got her in there, and it's going down. Okay. Just gonna get a little bit better light on there. Okay, we made contact with the housing. Okay, let's check her out. I do believe that's down there about as far as I better take it. And we still have some turnage. So let's take her back to the bench and take a look at it. It was just slightly a little bit higher than 0.425. So I just went over to the press, gave it a, put this back on, gave it a couple pumps, and now it's right in there. So the next thing we need to do is press the impeller back on. And if we look at the old shaft, you can see maybe it had about that much sticking up above. So we'll do that. Okay, here we are pressing the impeller back on. All right, I better stop there and see where we're at. All right, we're taking over the bench and do a little measuring. All right, I had to go over and do one more little quick pump on the press, and now we are in business. So, next thing we got to do is go over and put this bad boy back on. All right, let's get the pulley back on. See where we're at here. Nope. Let me check something. Not a good day out at the shop today. You notice the impeller is off. What happened is I didn't have the shaft supported under here. So when I pressed this on, it snapped that snap ring out of there. So now I'm not sure how to get the seal off without ruining it. So I may have to order a new seal. But I'll have to go back and research this. I don't know what I'll do. And to top that off, my old trusty stove, the element burned out on it. So I can't do any powder coating. So I guess I'll take some pictures of that, see if I can get a new element. Well, I got the shaft out. What I ended up doing is pulling the pulley off. Of course, in the process, I had to break a bolt off in there. That should come out pretty easy because I chased those before I did that. And what ended up happening is that E-clip, I guess they're called, broke off in there. You can see I've got another one in there. In the process, it broke. I can't find the chip here. Oh, it didn't actually break the GB weld off. It broke more of the casting off. So I went and put the JB weld in there again, and I'll grind that down a little bit. In the meantime, I've got to try to get this. You can see the clip's still in there. I've got to try to get that seal off without damaging it. So what I'm going to do is I went out and got a 8-inch piece of 1.25 inch iron pipe, and what I do is I'll lay that down in there and press it out, and hopefully I won't damage that seal. Otherwise I'll have to get another new one of those. So let me get that set up here. Okay, here's how I set it up. Nothing. There we go. Appears like it's okay, so we're just going to try to reuse that. Alright, I got the bearing and shaft pressed back in there. And you can see I got the E-clip, or internal snap ring, I guess. Placed back in there, so we'll go over, I'm not going to show you this because we already showed you, but we'll go over and put the seal back on. Well, disaster strikes again. When I was pressing the seal in, let's see if I can find it. Anyway, at the very top, there's a white ring that goes around it. I don't know if it's ceramic or what. And it broke. So I basically had to mangle it to get it out. So I'll have to order another one of those and try pressing it back on. Boy, this old water pump's just kicking my butt. Okay, here's the hydraulic pump that operates all the hydraulics for the lift. It was working fine, I believe. The only reason I'm going to tear it down, and rebuild it, is all the leaks. You know, I have no idea for sure if this was leaking, but everything was covered in grease. So we're going to go ahead and take it apart, reseal it, get it all painted. I think it will end up being red. So the first thing I got to do is take the gear off of it. So I'll bend that down, try to figure out how hard it's going to be to actually get that nut off of there. All right, to get that nut off, use our handy dandy impact wrench and just zipped it right off. So now we'll have to pull the gear off. Next steps, I'm going to go ahead and take this off and that, and then we'll take the bolts off back here, and then that's the back end of it. Front end of it, there's a clip in here that I got to remove. So I'll try to show you that when I get to that, but right now I'm going to go ahead and take this stuff off and take the back off. Okay, it's apart. There's a spring here that goes on in there. And then when you take this off, as you can see, there's these little blades in there that slide out. So I got to be careful I don't lose any of those. So I think, and then there's that pin there, and that pin, that one's solid. So I think what I need to do next is take that clip out of the C-clip or whatever you call it out. So I'll go, well, let's just walk over there and grab it. Got my little tool here. Let's see if we can get that out without, oh, came out fine. So there's a bearing there. So I'm going to have to remove these, go over to the press and press that out. So I got my press set up, and I got a box there with some cushion. Hopefully I can catch that without, so we don't mar that up when it comes out. So here we go. Huh. Well, it just slides on there. So we're going to put that away. And then we're see if we can get this pressed out. Yeah, let me research this. I would think that would come out easier than that. Just a minute. Okay, if you actually read the manual, it'll tell you that you use this to tap it out with the bearing on the other side, and then you have to press fit the bearing off and on. All right, we got it all apart. I just got to remove that bearing yet. There's actually two bearings and a seal in there. The smaller bearing went down inside there, then there was the seal, and then there was the larger bearing. So, I'll get that off, get this stuff cleaned up here, and then we'll get it powder coated, and then reverse it. All right, came off with a bang. So I'm going to put these in the parts washer, get them cleaned up, so we can move on from that. Well, we got the stove fixed, and there's our first product. So I'll drag that out and we'll see what it looks like up close. Okay, looks like it came out pretty good. Let's go ahead and start pulling plugs out of it. I'm going to clean that surface off. Overall, it looks like it turned out pretty well. Alrighty. Okay, we go from one disaster to another. My old, I think I made a comment in one of the videos earlier in the season. My old 25-year-old air compressor more or less bit the dust. Started to where it went it took forever for it to fill up, and then it finally got to the point where it started knocking so bad I was afraid it was going to throw a rod through the side. So we ended up with that monstrosity. It's an 80 gallon tank, dual piston unit. It's a Delta. So we've got to get it out of that truck. And it'd be nice if I had a forklift to do that, but the forklift's still over here in pieces. And so we've got a John Deere 630 tractor with a front end loader on it that we can put forks on. However, you can see down there, it blew the power steering hose. So we got a new power steering hose. Brad got that put on. However, for whatever reason, we have to use special John Deere power steering fluid, and it's the weekend and we can't get it. So, you know, disaster after disaster, but we're making it through it. The other thing is that old air compressor, although it was 240 volts, only had a dual 20 amp circuit breaker on it, and this one requires a dual 40. And when we had it put in, we only ran 10 gauge wire, and according to code, we need 8 gauge wire. So I'm going to have an electrician come out and do that. I'm getting too old to climb up there and go up there, go across and come down on the other side there. I'm getting too old to do that. So I got to get a hold of the electricians on Monday. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Okay, put a coat of primer on the head. Here's our first coat. We'll let that dry for about 20 minutes and we'll get another coat on it. Okay, there's 2 coats of aluminum paint on the head and a couple coats of primer. So we'll let that finish drying, and then we're probably, depending on how things go, throw the block up here and get it painted. I don't know if you can hear me, but Big Yellow's hooked up and running. We're finally back in business. We can move on with the projects. Okay, there's the block with 2 coats of primer, and I just put the last coat, the second coat of aluminum paint on it. So after this, I've got to come over here, turn this on. This will be a little noisy. You can see down there, that's that bell housing. Well, I don't know what exactly it's called, but that gets mounted on the back of that engine, and then we'll put it back in the on the engine stand and start reassembling. It's time to boil out the radiator. Just dropped it in the hot tank. I'll turn the aerator on here in a little bit, and hopefully overnight we're get all the rust out of it. Okay, we're going to end this one here. We got just a bunch of little stuff done on this episode. Still got to put the engine back together. We got that painted at least. We're in the process. We still got to assemble a bunch of small stuff. I need to get this housing done and put back on the block so I can put it back in the engine stand and start reassembling. So next time we're get on that stuff, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more coherent episode. And remember to like and share and ring the bell so you know when we get a new episode out. Till next time, this is Alan.